AskReddit by Hamsternwer. Waiters, what Valentine's Day disasters have you witnessed? I blew my car's tire and my friend came in to bail me out. We're both straight dudes and forgot it was Valentine's. Decided to have dinner and both were coming from important meetings, so had suits on. We didn't catch on until the end on how the entire waitstaff thought we were just the cutest gay couple. I 100% went to lunch with my best friend on V-Day years ago because we were both single and the staff thought we were dating. This is hilarious. I served at a Japanese hibachi restaurant and once had a couple come and the dude dumps her after the meal. She then gets up and throws up a trail probably a good 20 feet as she runs to the bathroom. The dude got up and left the girl and I was left to clean the mess. There was a note in our reservations that it was an engagement. They wanted champagne, a specific seat, bunch of other stuff. The server comes up to the table with something like, so I read, "We're celebrating an engagement, congratulations." Confusion from the woman, glaring from the guy. He hadn't proposed yet. She ruined it. When I proposed to my fiancée, I kept it a very small circle of people knowing so nothing could get spoiled. My grandfather didn't know till the day of because he has dementia. Her best friend is still mad I never told her, but she had ruined a birthday surprise months prior and I couldn't trust her after that. These two were on a date and the guy went to go use the bathroom. The girl just up and leaves after he went to the restroom. When the guy came back, he sat around for a while until asking his waitress where she went. She replied with saying that she left. The guy then asked the waitress if she would go on a date with him. The waitress said no. 042 in one night, damn. Not a waiter, but in my strip club bouncer days we had one of our regulars get suited up and bring flowers in one V-Day to try and woo one of the dancers. It did not work. Pro tip: if every time you'll hang out it involves you giving her money, she is not into you. Deleted. Deleted. I don't understand why some people think it's a thing to break up at a restaurant. Dump me in private, please. If we have plans to go out, dump me beforehand. He proposed. She said no. He cried and tried to change her mind for 20 minutes while she sat there stony faced. She finally got up and walked out. He paid and left in tears. Deleted. I was a delivery driver for a fruit bouquet company and I had two arrangements from the same guy. Routes were made for me and the truck was loaded, so there was no way I could mess this up. Delivered both arrangements to the appropriate address. I headed back to the store to find the store owner and the guy who sent these in an argument. This idiot put the wrong name to the houses. And it was on the card with the arrangement, along with the phone numbers. So both women called each other and then called the guy. He tried to say it was my fault. Then the person who took the order. He ordered it online. All we did was import the order. I hate Valentine's Day because of that place, but man was that great. I had a Section 1 V-Day that had a marriage proposal, a 40th anniversary, and a breakup all at the same time. The breakup was the worst. The guy brought his high-class date a gift, a mini ceramic bear holding balloons. He presented it when I was at the table and she looked at it like it was a hot turd. I just knew this was not going to end well. She left at the end of the meal and must have said something because he stayed at the table for another 40 minutes, head down and crying. I felt bad. He saw the celebrations going on at the other tables. Not a waiter, but I was a pastry chef at this big resort in Cape Cod. We got a special order from this guy who was coming in for his anniversary, Valentine's Day. He wanted his dessert to have "Will you marry me" written on it so he could pop the question when it came out. He called ahead to the front and back kitchen, even came in himself that morning to make sure it was good to go. The whole crew was behind him. We had cooks all night coming in the ask if it had happened yet. I wrote the inscription on the plate and dressed it to the nines with gold leaf and expensive chocolate. I'm taking a picture of the plate just before it's set to go out and notice our head waiter come in with a weird look on his face. He says plainly they don't need it. She broke up with him before the entrees hit the table. Ruthless. Deleted. Now that's love. A guy did a backflip and asked a girl to be his Valentine. She declined. I walked up to him and asked if he was fine. He said it took him a week to perfect. I feel for this guy, man, hope he found someone. Had a couple sign divorce papers and cry a bunch. If it's amicable, that's when you get shit-faced together. A guy proposed to his girlfriend and she said no. The guy threw his arms up and ran out of the building. Later, while waiting for someone to pick her up, she told us it was completely out of the blue, because they'd only been dating for a few months. Another V-Day, a guy raised a huge fuss over the fact that we wouldn't serve liquor to his underage girlfriend. I'm certain you mean he threw up his hands momentarily in exasperation, but I can't help picturing him running out of the restaurant arms straight up Kermit the Frog style. A 16-year-old boy proposed to a 15-year-old girl with a cheap ring in the whipped cream of her dessert. She said yes. So romance isn't quite dead yet. Bus boy on Las Vegas Strip. Unattempted proposal. Dude tries to set up sign with GF's friends for her to show up and see the ring near a fountain. Duck stole the ring. They found it 2 hours later as he dropped in the fountain. She still said yes. Free drinks were given. Untitled Goose Game. Back when I served food at one of those super touristy seafood restaurants, I worked a Valentine's Day double shift. For lunch, this younger couple came in celebrating their 1-year anniversary. I offer my congratulations and proceed to do my usual spiel before taking orders. The girl is looking more and more dismayed the longer I talk. Finally I get to the end and ask if there are any allergies. She looks directly at her boyfriend and states, "Yes, I'm allergic to fish and shellfish," then looks over at me very sad. I made sure every aspect of her meal was fine for her. But it was that look of "we've been dating a year and he still takes me to a restaurant that could kill me" that really did it for me. That reminds me when my parents got me a huge strawberry-filled cake with strawberries on it for my 25th birthday. I'm deathly allergic to strawberries. Not my table, but back in my Olive Garden days, we had a man who looked to be in his mid-20s tap his empty wine glass with a fork to call for attention of the surrounding strangers, then get down on one knee with silver band in hand, and ask his girlfriend date to accept this promise ring. She looked horrified start to finish. Did she accept the promise ring? In college I waited tables and Valentine's Day was always a good one in terms of tips. I once saw a couple come in to eat. Halfway through the dinner the man's wife shows up to surprise the couple. The wife took the wine bottle and poured the remnants on the husband's head, took off her ring and told the girlfriend she could have him. He tipped me a $100. You gotta think that your wife might think something is up when you're busy on Valentine's Day. Had a man and woman sharing dessert and the man playfully put a bit of the ice cream on her nose. She then did the same and he did it back once more but with a different flavor of ice cream. She flipped out at him because "You know I like chocolate the most, why would you waste it, you idiot?" In the end she stormed out cause the man couldn't comprehend how much she was blowing up the situation. TLDR, man put ice cream on woman's nose. She is fine with it the first time. The second time she rages and leaves. Yeah, sounds like she's got a lot of baggage hidden somewhere. I set my hair on fire and spilled a full Stella on a lady. I work in a causal fine dining steakhouse. Luckily for me, the lady I spilled the Stella on was super understanding and her husband said from across the table, "Well, now she has to take her pants off." So that could have gone worse for me. Why did you set your hair on fire before spilling on the lady? Just to feel alive? Not really much of a disaster, but last year my work called me up. "Hey buddy, we know you're single. Can you come in as an extra shift tonight?" "No, I have a date with your wife." Worked at a chain BBQ restaurant. Was a line cook but could see in the dining room. Had a lady and her kids, early teens, come in turn to be seated. She started to freak out, crying, yelling and left. Turns out the table in the corner was her husband and another lady in a date. Ex-barista here, hope that is close enough. Some guy on Valentine's Day came in and asked us to write on the cup, "Will you marry me?" It did not go well. She looked at the cup while he went down on one knee. She said nothing, put the cup back down and just walked away shaking her head. He, on the other hand, got pissed and started to rant about how she should have gotten over him sleeping with her sister already. We had to ask him to leave. Edit. Oh, I have a good story if you don't mind me sharing. Not on V-Day though. We had a guy come in and asked us to write, "Will you go to the prom with me?" She said yes so happily. I think they ended up engaged 2 years later since we started to see rings on their fingers. They were lovely regulars and I wish them the best. IDK, but I'll find out Friday cause I work a fucking double, and it's Applebee's. Update. Sorry Reddit, I've been working a shit ton and haven't had a minute to update you guys. So basically, Valentine's Day at Applebee's wasn't much different than any other Friday night working there, but I will say, a lot of people were stingy as fuck with their tips, and I mean a lot of people also. There was a couple who dined and dashed, and there was a dude who got stood up. Other than that, it was about as trashy as normal. Happy belated Valentine's Day everybody. Back to work I go. Godspeed, my friend. 2 failed marriage proposals on the same Valentine's Day. The first one simply said no, I can't do this, and walked out. The second one stared like a deer frozen in the headlights for an excruciating 30 seconds before muttering, "Let's talk about this later." They stayed for the rest of their 6-course V-Day special dinner, eating and making painful small talk. If you aren't 100% certain the person will say yes, then your relationship is nowhere near a point where getting engaged is an option. Saw a couple have a full-on argument at a restaurant. I wasn't their server, but the table was directly in the center of the restaurant and they were certainly loud enough for everyone to hear. My manager kindly asked them to leave and the guy's response was to yell, "I've been wanting to do that shit for 2 years now," and stormed out. That's a really good comeback though. He nailed that exit. Deleted. A girl that I worked with went to lunch on Valentine's Day at an expensive restaurant her boyfriend had gotten a reservation for. She got dressed up nice, was going on about how sure she was that he was going to propose. He broke up with her. Breaking up at a VD lunch in an expensive restaurant feels unnecessarily harsh. A few years ago, I had finished my shift at a pub I was working at, and sat at the bar with a drink. There were still a few couples sat in the restaurant, but the boss let me clock off early. I had a pint before leaving, and at a table nearby, it sounded like a proposal was about to happen. A few people went quiet listening in. Then, it happened. Guy, "Hannah, will you marry me?" He was kneeled in front of his girlfriend. Her sat down. Girl, "Hannah? Who the is Hannah?" she yelled, threw her drink at him and walked out. Guy paid and walked out, looking very red. Take the Emily. Probably not the kind of story you're looking for, but one Valentine's Day at my restaurant we got totally slammed and the kitchen started melting down. In the middle of dinner service the head chef freaked out, threw a side of salmon at one of the line cooks and walked out. I was hosting at a really busy brunch place and Valentine's Day was one of our busiest days. We had a full waitlist with tons of people in the lobby when this dude walks on with this huge teddy bear and a bouquet of roses. He said he wanted to drop them off for my coworker, so I let her know he was there, but understandably she was running around so it took a bit. While waiting, a bunch of folks waiting for tables complimented him on how sweet he was to do that for his girlfriend and how jealous they were. It was kind of cute. When my coworker finally was able to come up front there was a lot of awe when such. Again, We were slammed, so she ran back after taking the items and it was back to work for all of us. When it died down, I asked her how long she was dating her boyfriend for and she replied, "He's not my boyfriend. He was the salesman where I just bought my car and I think he got my workplace from the paperwork." That was pretty fucking disturbing. Oh no. That's awful. I hope she called the dealership the next day and let them know that one of their salespeople was using someone's personal information that way. Creep. Someone showing up for a date and you both realize about 30 minutes and she ain't coming. Drinks on me, buddy. A couple came into my hibachi restaurant since it was the fanciest place in town. Young woman was all decked out in a spangly, light blue satin cocktail gown. He was in a suit and tie. They wanted to sit at the grill for the show but still ordered a ton of sushi and drinks, so their section of table was extremely full of dishes. I'm talking multiple mixed drinks and waters for both of them, soup and salad bowls for both of them, appetizer plates, sushi plates, soy sauce trays, and their entree plates. The hibachi seats 12 and it's basically a bar ledge around the grill for a table, and we were slammed so there was no extra room. I barely managed to talk them into letting me take the empty dishes as they finished with them, but it hardly helped. The chef starts his show and dude is super into it, demanding to be included. So the chef flicks a shrimp at him in his effort to show off. Small, fine dining restaurant. Man from my table goes to the restroom and is gone for a while, probably 10 minutes. Which for a restaurant is a while. As I'm passing by the restroom he's all PSSSS ushering me to the side and hurriedly whispering that he needs to leave through the kitchen because his wife's best friend was sat near he and his date, who of course as I learned in and there is not his wife. We box the remaining courses up and do a walk of shame through the kitchen. He's pissed, she's crying, all while the rest of us are stifling our laughter. He ended up tipping well on the prefix, which was nice. Happened to my poor coworker. A guy and his date came in for Valentine's Day. They had a great time, ate a lot of food, drank a lot of wine, and got along really well with my coworker who was their server. About 2 months later they come back in and request my coworker again, who happily says yes to serving them. He goes up and greets them, the guy introduces his wife to him, and my coworker mentioned something about how much he enjoyed serving them on Valentine's Day. They go quiet. Wife gets up and leaves, guy just lowers his head. Turns out he had brought his mistress in on Valentine's Day, but my coworker didn't realize he was with a different woman this time around, so didn't think anything of it. We never saw the guy again. Guy was a pose for cheating obviously, but also what an idiot to request the server he had while with the other woman. Couples who are close to the spring breakup trying to save everything on one meaningless holiday dinner. You see at least one every year. Spring breakup? First time I've heard this term. What would that be? I waited on one of the owners of the restaurant I was working at with his girlfriend and her twin kids. Kinda weird, but probably didn't get a babysitter. He had been dating this woman for a number of months, but it was his first Valentine's Day on a date that wasn't his wife in decades. I don't think he was ready, but he was there to support the business. He broke down crying during dinner and it was heartbreaking. They left early. Had his wife passed away or something? Nothing too scandalous, but I'd say happy Valentine's Day pretty much to any couple that sat at my tables. Occasionally one of them would say something like "we're not dating." Some of the times, the other person would give a look that pretty much confirmed that they both had very different interpretations of what was going on. There's an episode of 30 Rock where they mention that going to IKEA is a big stress test in relationships. That has nothing on going to a restaurant on the busiest days of the year, particularly Mother's Day and Valentine's, especially when it's on a weekend. I'd say 99% of the disasters I've seen have just been normal run-of-the-mill issues where couples realize they have different levels of patience, and one person undoubtedly gets aggravated with the packed restaurant, and their time is ruined. Do you ever say Happy Mother's Day and get a "she's not my mother" in response? Not really a disaster, but this guy came in and said he was waiting for his date. He stayed for 5 hours waiting and she never showed. He eventually ordered 4 for himself and asked that I remove the other glass of water from the table. He said it was their first date. Damn, why would you wait for 5 hours? I'm out of there after 30 minutes. Was a server at a popular seafood chain that isn't very fancy, but when you live in a town like the one I worked in, that sort of place is the nicest place to go for Valentine's Day. Well, the night was incredibly busy when a couple came in. They were upset after waiting 45 minutes for a table, and they were complaining quite a lot. The woman was decked out in a super nice dress and faux fur coat that was actually very realistic. Well, she was sat and served her frozen drink. She goes to lift the glass to her mouth, and inexplicably, the bottom of the cup simply breaks and the drink is spilled all over her dress and nice coat. Was unfortunate. Edit. To everyone asking about the restaurant, yes, it's the place you'll think it is. Frozen drink plus hot glass equals no bueno. It was like a movie. I was bartending at an Italian restaurant, not a fancy one, but still, and it's pretty much full of Valentine's dates. A guy walks in and sits at the bar by himself, looking pretty down. He asked for a whiskey, so I poured it, told him it was on the house because he looked like he needed it. He proceeds to tell me his story. And X200B. He had come to the city to surprise his girlfriend for Valentine's, about a 5-hour bus trip between cities, and he sure surprised her. She was in her dorm room fucking one of his friends from high school. He didn't know what to do, so he just walked into the first place that sold alcohol. I spilled as much whiskey as he wanted and watched the Raptors with him. Never saw him again. It's cliché, but it happened. Edit. Watch the Raptors isn't a euphemism. We watched the basketball game. Clichés become clichés for a reason. My own. When my GF got sick on the train home, 2 guys tried to sexually harass the 2 of us, only to get back to her car at 3:30 AM and realize she had no gas. After I managed to drive us home on empty, I saw a note on the dining room table. Apparently, my roommate had been taking the $1,100 I was giving him each month for rent and using it to pay off his fines and fees from his recent DUI, and hadn't paid the rent for 3 months and we were on the verge of eviction. So where did you bury his body? I worked at a sports bar. Every couple there on Valentine's Day was a divorce waiting to happen. Nothing says romance like being around a bunch of loud bros in jerseys eating wings and burgers. Deleted. Sorry, what? I need more details. What happened after they were taken to the table? I saw a couple have a full-blown argument in the middle of the restaurant. The woman stood up, took her ring off, threw it at him and walked out. The man continued his meal, had dessert and then paid the bill, left a pretty big tip for the inconvenience and left. I've done this once. We were having a drink and I don't even remember what I said. My boyfriend got really pissed and just walked away. Not a big loud argument, but there was a bit of cutting remarks. After he left, I slowly finished my drink and left, 15 minutes after him. I didn't want people to figure out that he left me there like an idiot, so I just tried to act normal, plus there wasn't a single chance that I was going to run after him. Edited to fix a typo. I was waiting on a couple in their early 40s on Valentine's Day in an Irish pub. The dude was head to ankles camo and rude. She was decently dressed for a date at the pub and very pleasant. She thanked me for working on Valentine's Day and said I probably have someone I'd rather be with, and he said, PFFF. She's too skinny, who would want her? I only spoke to her for the rest of the meal. It was my first week serving and I was trying to do everything by the books. This normal seeming couple is satisfied throughout the meal. I ask if the check would be together or separate. Big mistake. I figured it would be together and go to the gentleman, but not wanting to assume I asked. They say together. NBD, I go get the check and drop it off. Come back and she's writing a paragraph about how I shouldn't have asked. I grab my manager and she stops by the table and crazy lady complains. They leave. The gentleman tips me well and seems embarrassed at the situation. Crazy lady fills out our survey complaining and calls the store 3 times after to complain. I brushed it off because she obviously had insecurity issues, but damn, what a wild ride. Was the chef at a pretty fancy place. We did 4-course tasting prefix and were always booked to the brim for Valentines. The owner was out of town and the place was packed during our first seating when the pipes to the apartment above the restaurant burst. Nasty, cold water rained on everyone and everything. Fire department came. Owner said to give everyone champagne, clean the place up and keep going. As if anyone wanted to continue their meal soaked through on a cold ass night in sealing water. Serving at a touristy restaurant about 5 years back. Had a call for a reservation including myself and my service dog. Okay. No problem. I actually like one-tops, even on Valentines. They're usually quite nice and just want to be treated well despite taking up a table meant for 4+ people. I agree to take it while all the other servers are complaining about the reservation only being for 1. Anyway. Hours later, in walks this drop-dead gorgeous woman, with a full-grown man in a dog mask and full leather suit, complete with leather tail, being led on all 4s behind her. She nonchalantly gives her name, it's on the reservation list, and so the hostess just leads her to her table. I walked up to them, being super professional. I was so stoned it wasn't really phasing me, and this woman just orders like $200 worth of random apps, entrees, and a bottle of higher-end Merlot.